The STG-44, MP-40, Type 100, those kind of weapons, a little bit overdone, right? Likely they're going to be getting some updates here, a little further weapon tuning in the near future, and so therefore, if they're dethroned, what's next? Well, actually, there's a couple of weapons right now that I think already outclass all of those, but aren't necessarily getting the attention they may deserve. Today, I want to take a look at some underrated weapons and what may be the next meta within Vanguard, so that you can start ranking these up and get ahead of the curve. As we go along, let me know your thoughts down below. Is there anything in particular you think deserves to be on this list? Any weapon you think outranks any of these? Or have you tried any of these weapons and definitely think that, yeah, these are really good? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like on the video. Let's aim for 2,000 on this. You guys have been crushing it here with the support, so truly thank you guys so much for the continued support. Much appreciated. And of course, if you guys are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Vanguard. We're on the road to 500,000 subscribers, so if you're part of that nearly 70% of viewers that like to stay up to date with best class setups like this, tips and tricks, information and updates, whatever the case, we got you covered here on the channel. So I'd love to have you in the community. That said, let's jump right into the weapons you should get ahead on. So when it comes to weapon tuning early on in the year of a game, it's always up in the air. There's always going to be broken things that are more powerful. There's always going to be weapon tuning that doesn't follow any real set pattern of when they'll release. For example, the Type 100 and STG were both bugged in regards to their 2-hit kill potential when using a caliber conversion magazine mixed with the vital weapon perk. That was promptly fixed. It wasn't something that was scheduled exactly how we anticipated, but was fixed no less. Same thing goes with the shotguns to a degree, though I still think that they're a pain to go up against. There was a balancing pass that changed those a bit. However, those are still usable, but in this one we're talking about and examining those weapons that I think you should have ranked up in anticipation for the next major balancing pass, one that could likely dethrone some of these air quote best weapons, though in reality I actually think some of these already outclass things like those STGs, those Type 100s, that MP40, things like that. So starting out with weapons that do so, I want to start out with one that I think actually may be the next best weapon that you'll start to see a lot here in the near future, that being the Automaton. Arguably, I'd say it's already even better a choice. The only thing that really couldn't compete was that 2-hit kill vital bug, but now that that's fixed out, you're still getting a 3-hit kill reliably with the STG, but with the Automaton, you're getting 3 to 4-hit kills, but at a much higher and faster fire rate and output. Where this thing excels truly is in its handling. Normally for a weapon with such a high fire rate, it'd be a ton of kick in the recoil. I mean, right now, the comparable guns outside of, say, Modern Warfare, Cold War, and Warzone, in its fire rate comparison are things like the AS-Val, even close to the PPSH, both of which, though, are bad at range, but more closely related, maybe, perhaps to the Ram 7 and the M4A1, both of which also need a heavy focus on control to be usable. But with 10 attachments within Vanguard on the Automaton, it's absurdly easy to control, and that's what makes this thing so deadly at range, because even across the entire map, it's still point, shoot, and dead. This thing is a laser pointer and carries similar damage values to things like the STG right now. I feel like a lot of people may be sleeping on this weapon and other weapons that we'll talk about because of the leveling and how long it takes and how long it may be to get one singular weapon done, but I promise this is going to be worth putting in that time. Normally, I'd run something like the muzzle of the G28 compensator or cord muzzle brake, depending on if you want recoil or accuracy bonuses, a barrel of the Anastasia sniper, or for those that are still leveling it, the Zach 600mm BFA barrel, an optic of the Slate reflector, the stock of the Empress broadsword, the underbarrel of the Carver foregrip, though the 1941 hand stop works really well too. Just kind of comes down to what you want to sacrifice in additional recoil control, but it's not too game changing if you choose the Carver with the added downsize. The magazine, though, the 6.5mm Sakura rounds, though, either the 45 round or the 75, that's entirely up to you. The drum mag obviously loses a little bit in handling, but with 75 rounds and fully loaded as your weapon kit, you'll probably never need more ammo because you have a whopping 75 in the magazine and 450 in reserve. Mobility wise, though, it really doesn't lose too much. You don't have much a penalty for going between the two. But anyways, the ammo type, I'd recommend lengthened as always, especially if you're playing medium to long range. This ensures that your rounds are getting there as fast as possible. A rear grip, I end up running something like a polymer grip with 0 downsides but added flinch resistance, which makes this thing great for while you're in a gunfight, and it also adds a little bit of accuracy and recoil control during sustained fire. Lastly, I'd run the Frenzy Proficiency for health regeneration after kills, which is huge, and then the fully loaded weapon kit so that I have as much ammo as possible. Truly, give this thing a go. Next weapon, one that I think will dominate the SMG category once the Type 100, once the MP40, some of that, either of those are either either nerfed or some of the sort of intrigue in using those weapons exclusively wears off. Whatever the case may be, I'm thinking the M1928 Thompson will make a run for that crown. When it comes to the SMGs, it's kind of few and far in between. Of course, the MP40 right now, the Type 100 are up there, but things like the PPSH can be a marshmallow shooter at range. The L1 gun can slap, but has a slower fire rate by comparison, so you need to hit your shots. In the Sten, well, it's just kind of a weaker version of everything else. But the M1928 holds a nice little balance of fire rate, control, and once you unlock the right attachments, damage potential. This thing's mobility makes it a great and deadly choice for things like smaller maps of Dome, DOS House, Shipment, and so on, so you can just bob and weave in and out while taking out your enemies. Again, this is one of those ones that takes a little bit to rank up and get to the right point where you want it, but it's absolutely worth that time and effort, and is something that I definitely think you should focus on in that SMG category. For this, my normal build would be the muzzle of the G28 compensator, again, adding pros for no trade-offs, giving that additional recoil control, the barrel of the CGC 12-inch cooling, the optic of the slate reflector, the stock of the CGC S adjustable, which adds sprint to fire bonuses for a run and gunner. That's absolutely crucial. So I'm also not playing for long range, so the accuracy con of that is something that I can kind of afford to play around with. The underbarrel, this depends on where you're at in your ranks of it and what you want to do. To start out, the M1930 Strife angled grip is perfect. It adds that accuracy that you just lost back, while also adding a little bit more in that aiming stability and aim walking steadiness department. But the SMLE pistol grip is another solid choice at the end of your leveling journey, as it offers an additional 2 sprint to fire speed and additional hip fire accuracy, making this a quick draw machine that if you use this, it offers up an additional 21 milliseconds in terms of sprint to fire speed. So between those two barrels, you can make up a difference of about 30 milliseconds depending on which one you go with. The magazine, this is where it's important. This is the 8mm Kurz 50 round drum mag. That's probably the most important attachment on this entire build. There's no other mag that you should be using unless you just want to hurt your mobility a little bit and go with the 100 round mag, which is kind of just excessive. But the 8mm offers up bullet velocity, bullet penetration, and damage. That damage is a huge asset to your build, making each round deal 34 damage, meaning that in turn, this does turn out to be a 3-hit kill regardless of where on the body your shots land. With a headshot multiplier, statistically speaking, you can kill in 2 shots if they're both headshots, but it's likely only one will land. But still, a reliable 3-shot SMG is great in almost any situation, so it's a win-win. The ammo type, again, I'd suggest lengthened, just giving that bullet velocity a little bit of an increase. The rear grip, the pine tar grip for additional recoil control is what I play with. It has some kick, but with not much else on your build to really be playing into that, I figure add a little bit to mitigate that. And then the proficiency of Frenzy for health regeneration after kills, and the kit of fully loaded, as we've seen before. But next up, I want to talk about the bar really quickly though, because we've talked about this a couple of times. The bar, again, is one that packs a punch with the right attachments, but in terms of overall fire rate, it is slower, so it's a bit more methodical of a weapon. It's not one that you want to maybe run and gun as much as hold down an area. If you're playing for objective kills, you can maybe say hold down a B flag or something like that. But normally for this, I'd end up running the G28 compensator, CGC 30-inch XL for recoil control, accuracy, and reduced sway and flinch resistance, the optic of the slate reflector, the stock of the Chariot WR for a lot of added aiming stability, recoil control, accuracy, and flinch resistance, the underbarrel of the Carver foregrip for added recoil control. You can kind of see where we're going with all of this. We're mitigating all of that real kick that we can. Then the magazine, either the 20 or 30 round BMG magazines, because the added damage is what really does it here at this. That's what makes it a reliable 2-shot kill at a distance. Ammo type, lengthened, make sure that you can get those shots off at a distance and win those gunfights. The rear grip of the polymer grip, the proficiency of hard scope for accuracy and recoil in sustained ADS. Again, if you're trying to play a little bit more objectively holding down an area, that is a great way to do it. And then the weapon kit of fully loaded, that's kind of the only one that's really a commonality between all these classes, is that I like to have my ammo. You don't necessarily need that, and if you don't, I'd highly recommend surplus, especially if you're ranking up your weapons still, but that's the bar, and it's an incredible build, I think. The next weapon that we'll talk about is the final rifle up on deck, and one that I actually just started recently using, and I've been loving it so far. This is kind of a weapon I think that fits a little bit of a niche, that being the NZ41. It's a reliable 3-hit kill, but you need to be accurate. It has a slower fire rate than other rifles, and so therefore, if you miss some shots, you might end up losing that gunfight. So if you're accurate, this is an absolute weapon you can thrive with. Otherwise, maybe stick to the Automaton, maybe to the STG still, but the NZ41, what I would recommend is that G28 compensator for obvious reasons we've already talked about. The barrel of the Orb Weaver cantilever 360mm BC for accuracy and control, an optic with a slate reflector because I just like that pinpoint precision, the stock of the Ravenwood padded for accuracy and flinch resistance, the underbarrel of the carbon foregrip for recoil control, and it's also the first thing you really unlock in terms of that, so it can't go wrong and you can use that from the very beginning. The magazine, I actually forego a magazine on this. The NZ is in a sort of weird class as it doesn't have any magazine that either increases the damage potential, nor does it have any sort of standard extended mags variant. So you're either getting a faster reload, which severely undercuts your multi-kill potential with 10 less rounds to work with, or you're getting a magazine that increases the fire rate but sacrifices that damage. So I'd prefer not to engage in either of those. The ammo type, I end up running lengthened, the rear grip, the pine tar grip for recoil control and some hipfire accuracy, and then the proficiency of either frenzy for health regeneration after kills, or in the case of the NZ, pinned is another one that's a really good choice as it increases the flinch dealt to enemies. The final thing, the kit, fully loaded, of course, as we see across the board. The final weapon that I do end up running with, though, is the SVT, and this one is something that is a lot more methodical of a weapon. You're not going to be running and gunning with all of this, but it's a weapon that absolutely has insane damage potential. Even without Vital as a proficiency, you can end up getting a one-hit kill just to the chest at almost any range with one attachment. So you add in Vital, and it even makes the snipers look tame by comparison. For this, I end up running the G28 compensator, the Kovalevskaya 800mm, which increases that larger one-hit kill area, which is huge for this. I like to throw on the 3 to 6 times optic here at that sometimes. I'll play around with the optic depending on the map sometimes as well. I end up using the weighted stock for added aiming stability, recoil control, accuracy, and flinch resistance. The hand stop for added recoil control and accuracy. Then we end up throwing on the 7-round fast mag for reload quickness, the lengthened ammo type, the rubber grip for recoil control, the proficiency of Vital to increase that area for critical hit kills, and then fully loaded to make sure that we have enough ammo to last us on any streak that we may end up going on. So that's the top 5 weapons that I think right now are pretty underrated, may not be given as much a chance as other weapons like the STG, the MP40, the Type 100, and things like that. Another one that's kind of a honorable mention, I think, that has a lot of potential is the DP27, but that's one that I'm still working to rank up a little bit and give an accurate representation here of that entire gunplay and how that all works out. But keep an eye on that one as well, because I think that might squeak in if there's a top 5, maybe tie for top 5, but maybe like just on the outside looking in. But anyways, that is the weapons here that I absolutely think you should be ranking up right now so that you're ahead of the curve, and come the air quote next meta, you know exactly what to use and what can absolutely go head and shoulders above the rest of the competition. So that said, drop a like if you guys enjoy. Let me know your thoughts down below. Do you guys use any of these weapons already? Do you see their strengths as is? Whatever the case, drop it down below. But if you also are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Vanguard. We'll keep you up to date with absolutely anything you need to know. So if you're interested in any of that, love to have you in the community. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.